The man who destroyed the Roman Empire. Romans versus barbarians. For centuries, the Roman Empire stood as an unstoppable force. Its legions, with their iron discipline, carved out a massive domain, conquering vast lands from the British Isles to the deserts of North Africa. The grandeur of Rome was unrivaled. Its architecture, military, and politics were admired and feared across the known world. Yet, even the mightiest empires crumble. But have you ever wondered, who or what destroyed Rome? Was it a natural decline, or was there someone who brought the empire to its knees? Today, we're going to dive deep into the life of a man who played a pivotal role in its downfall. Alaric I, the king of the Visigoths, and how his actions, along with those of other barbarian leaders, led to the fall of one of history's greatest civilizations. Before we delve into Alaric's story, we need to understand the broader context. By the late 4th and early 5th centuries, the Roman Empire was already starting to show signs of wear. It had split into two: the Eastern Roman Empire, with its capital in Constantinople, and the Western Roman Empire, ruled from the city of Rome itself. While the Eastern Empire would continue for nearly 1,000 more years as the Byzantine Empire, the Western Roman Empire was crumbling under the weight of corruption, weak leadership, economic instability, and relentless pressure from external enemies. But this wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a slow burn. For centuries, Rome had relied on its formidable army to defend its borders. However, over time, it began to recruit more and more non-Romans into its legions, including from the very tribes that would one day invade. These tribes were often referred to as barbarians, a term the Romans used to describe anyone who wasn't part of their civilization, no matter how organized or sophisticated these groups were. And among these so-called barbarians were the Visigoths, a Germanic tribe that would forever change the course of Roman history. Alaric wasn't just any leader. He was a man shaped by the complexities of the Roman world. Born around 370 AD, he grew up in a time when the Visigoths had a tenuous relationship with Rome. After years of conflict, the Visigoths had been allowed to settle within the empire's borders as foederati, a kind of semi-autonomous group that provided military service in exchange for land. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, were promised protection and rights in return for their loyalty to the empire. But, like many agreements in history, things didn't go as planned. Alaric's first encounter with Rome was not as an invader, but as an ally. He served in the Roman military, leading Visigothic forces under the empire's banner. Yet, despite his service, Alaric felt betrayed by the Romans. Promised titles and rewards for his efforts, he was repeatedly denied the recognition he believed he deserved. This sense of betrayal festered, and Alaric's ambitions began to shift. Rather than fighting for Rome, he decided to fight against it. Alaric's first major move against Rome came in 401 AD. He led his Visigothic army across the Alps and into Italy, threatening the heart of the empire itself. This was not a wild, disorganized invasion, but a calculated show of force. Alaric demanded land and a high-ranking military position for himself. He wasn't trying to destroy Rome. He wanted to be a part of its power structure. But Rome, weakened though it was, wasn't ready to bend to his demands, at least not yet. Alaric's first invasion was repelled by the Roman general Stilicho, but the writing was on the wall. The Roman army had barely managed to hold off the Visigoths, and the cost of maintaining such a defense was draining the empire's already strained resources. Alaric was patient. After the initial failed invasion, he withdrew, biding his time. His understanding of Rome's internal weaknesses grew. He knew that Rome was suffering from political infighting, economic crises, and a military that was increasingly relying on mercenaries rather than disciplined Roman legions. The empire was ripe for the taking, but Alaric wasn't in a rush. He was waiting for the perfect moment. That moment came in 408 AD, when Stilicho, the man who had defeated Alaric years earlier, was executed by the Roman Emperor Honorius. With Stilicho gone, the Western Roman Empire lost one of its most competent generals, and Alaric seized the opportunity. Once again, he led his forces into Italy, but this time, Rome was in no position to stop him. By 410 AD, Alaric's Visigothic army surrounded the city of Rome itself. The Eternal City, which had stood for nearly 800 years as the heart of the Roman world, was under siege. Starvation and disease ravaged the city's population, and desperate Roman officials negotiated with Alaric, offering a massive ransom of gold, silver, and slaves in exchange for sparing the city. Alaric accepted the ransom, but his true goal was not wealth, it was power. He wanted to be recognized as a legitimate authority within the empire. Despite the ransom payment, negotiations with the Emperor Honorius broke down. Alaric, frustrated and angered by the Romans' refusal to give him the recognition he sought, decided to take drastic action. On August 24, 410 AD, Alaric's army breached Rome's gates. For the first time in centuries, the city was sacked by a foreign force. The Visigoths plundered the city for 3 days, but it wasn't a wanton destruction. Alaric gave strict orders to his men to respect churches and religious sites, as he was himself a Christian. The sack of Rome in 410 didn't mark the immediate end of the Roman Empire, but it was a devastating psychological blow. The city that had once ruled over the Mediterranean was now at the mercy of a former barbarian general. News of the sack spread like wildfire, and many across the Roman world began to lose faith in the empire's ability to protect its people. It was a sign that Rome's best days were behind it. Alaric didn't live long after his triumph. He died later that year, leaving the Visigoths without their leader, but the damage had been done. Rome would continue to decline in the following decades, beset by further invasions from the Vandals, Huns, and other tribes. Finally, in 476 AD, the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer, marking the official end of the Western Roman Empire. So, was Alaric truly the man who destroyed Rome? In a way, yes. He was the catalyst that exposed the empire's vulnerabilities, but Rome's fall was the result of a complex web of factors. Alaric, Attila the Hun, Odoacer, and many other barbarian leaders chipped away at the empire's foundations, but the internal rot had already set in long before they arrived. Alaric's legacy is one of a man who, through a mix of ambition and frustration, changed the course of history. He showed that Rome was no longer the invincible superpower it once was, and in doing so, paved the way for the emergence of a new world, one where the so-called barbarians would play a key role in shaping Europe's future. The story of Alaric and the fall of Rome is a reminder that no empire, no matter how powerful, is immune to decline. It's a story of ambition, betrayal, and the shifting tides of history. And while Rome may have fallen, its legacy lives on. Its laws, its culture, and even its mistakes continue to influence the world we live in today.